Welcome back to T3, that Thursday night thing. We are here in the house. All your hosts are here, Mr. U. That's me, by the way. Got Shane, Herb, and Big Ben in the house. How you fellas doing tonight on this non-Thursday night football?
Excellent, except there's no football, yeah.
What are we going to watch?
Watch us, man.
Great idea, Ben. Watch us. How you guys doing? Shane, Herb, what's happening with you?
Doing good.
We're good. I think they can get away watching Ben for the rest of the night, but the rest of us, I don't know, man.
I don't put much confidence in watching me all night because you might see things you can't unsee. But yeah, man. So, any of you guys snowed in, or you guys are good?
Good so far.
Yeah, I'm in Alabama, man. Snowed in is like you can still get out, just everyone's scared to. So
yeah, that's enough reason to stay home. So yeah, I can't.
A whole inch. Oh, I'm definitely going to. Yeah. So if we get that 1 inch of snow next week, I'm done.
I don't feel comfortable being out here in endanger my life, so I got to stay home.
Yep.
I don't think Shane would get snowed in if you put him up in the North Pole, man. I think he's probably good to go no matter what.
Next week, wind chill -30, gentlemen.
Nice.
-30 by the time we make this episode next week.
You're up there kissing that Canadian county line. That's what you get, man.
Yeah. Shane, if you did have to call for help, which one of us would answer and which one of us would ditch you, in reference to what you had to answer the other night?
Listen,
I ain't answering, man.
Is there going to be a time where I'm not put on the firing squad?
I mean, wow. I think I've called everybody in this group at least once, and I know it's been more than that. So I won't say how many times people answer the phone, how many times my call went to voicemail. We just keep on moving because we want to keep the show going. But I think everybody gets their voicemail time up in here. But I know I do. West Coast wins in the house. Tell you what, man, West Coast has been on point, man. Everything that comes out this live from this platform, she is right there in the mix. Thank you, West Coast, for joining us and supporting us. Love that. Thank you so much. All right, let's get down to some work. Before we get started, man, anything interesting happening in your lives that you want to talk about and share with the whole world? Anything interesting going on?
My life
Ben was snowsledding at his house, which was like very interesting. This is in Greenville, South Carolina. He's snow sledding out. I don't know how he can pull that off.
Look, the most interesting thing going on at my house right now in my life is that all my Christmas lights are still up and out on the outdoors.
There you go.
Including Santa and his reindeer that have fallen over. They just quit on top of my roof. They're just laying there sideways like they got in a wreck or something.
There's only one word to describe that, Ben. It's called neglect.
I was busy prepping for your show, man. I ain't got time to fool around with these lights.
No. That's not on me. This is Dave's.
That's it. Ben, I support that excuse, Ben. I support that excuse.
Ooh, no. Anybody else?
No. I'm looking forward to Ben's fight with the HOA. That's really what I want to. It's gonna be a pay-per-view event. That's what.
PLE. I know that's right.
Yeah.
A few cardboard boxes I'm eyeing down the street that we may have to move into if I don't get my lights down.
That is not a good thing. All right. Is there any news and notes from college football beside the Natty? Is there anything else going on? Because I feel like I saw some stuff, but I don't think I grabbed it. Anything of note going on in the college football world? What's up, Hot Take? Want you guys to remember this guy's name right here. We're going to get a chance to meet him very, very soon, man. Evening, sir. Glad to have you on Hot Take. All right, so anything of note? That's not
the most interesting thing college football-wise to me outside of the national championship was Carson Beck forgoing his NFL career to go chase his girlfriend in Miami. That was probably, especially when the story broke, so.
Did you hear the other part of the story?
What's that?
I wanted to text you, but that was proof I was way too busy. I couldn't even text you this story. But they were talking about how all the players felt about the situation and what kind of vibe they brought to the.
Oh yeah, so we have a couple Georgia friends who've kind of been talking about this all year. Like nobody was wanting him to really come back, so it wasn't really an option. They even had a post out, I think yesterday, day before, whatever. That was like. Georgia was willing to have him come back, and Alabama also called, and I was like, I don't believe either one of those. Like, And from everything I've talked to with Georgia people, it was time for him to go. So I think he had lost the locker room a long time ago.
This is without a doubt a cautionary tale, man. I mean, if I was a younger person, I wouldn't even speak on this, but because I've seen so much in life, I'm like, you've seen this one coming. I mean, she's like, oh man.
I don't think people saw this one coming. He had entered the draft, so it was kind of weird that he all of a sudden withdrew and then decided to go. Okay.
You got anything, man?
No, I mean, Herb and I talked about this before. The crush for Beck is he had a terrible season, and then he makes this move, and like Herb mentioned, the big thing for me is Kirby Smart didn't back him up in any way at all. There was no like, this isn't a true story. This isn't the movie he's gonna make.
Nobody did.
And I don't think that Georgia is in a worse position. I think that chances are Kirby Smart told them you're going to compete next year because you didn't play up to what we're looking for. And a second he heard that, and an NIL deal, and Miami, and a girlfriend, and a Lambo, and he said, "Yeah, let's give it a shot." I mean, the other thing is and you guys know this. Before this NIL and transfer and everything like that, you would have a quarterback that got better each year, but by the time the draft came, they would tear him apart for 2 months. Like, all of a sudden, he became the worst quarterback ever. The problem for Beck is that he truly did become terrible.
Yep.
Like, he put Georgia in bad positions this year, and you found out how much that Lad McConkey and an all-world tight end it ended up being protected him, and without those weapons, and he got hurt. And I mean, it says a lot because there were plenty of other 4 stars on Georgia. You know, it's not like they're not depleted in talent, but he had a rough go of it this year.
Yeah,
absolutely. Ben, you got anything on that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the offense was supposed to take a step forward, and it was the same Georgia where the defense was carrying them. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, it was expected. I think everybody thought, this should be a number 1 seed, and it wasn't anything like that. Any thoughts on that, Ben?
No, I'll just add to what all of you guys have put out there, which is all true. But the very second he announced his decision to go into the draft, he got crushed by a lot of the major media personalities for doing that, including Schefter and Kuiper. They were all saying this guy should not be coming into the draft. So, when you've got the top dogs, and listen, I'm sure, he talked to some NFL teams too to get a more deep feel for that. I'm sure the advice he was getting was, hey, why don't you go make some money back in college for another year? Come see us in a year here too, because he was getting crushed almost immediately for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a weak quarterback class. So for you to get hammered on entering now, I don't see it getting better for you next year, my friend.
Nope.
Yeah, I think some other folks I'd be feeling the burn from that too. But I got 2 questions for you guys before we get into the Natty game coming up in a little bit. But let's just listen to Quinn Ewers. He's doing kind of almost some of the same stuff. What are your thoughts on him as far as draft stock? How you see him? I mean, he didn't play great in his last public game in front of everybody. So what do you guys think about him not taking the NIL deal, which was a lot of money? I thought it was a $9 million number, but I'm not quite sure on that one. I think it was about $9 million. Either
I saw 8 for sure, so 9 doesn't surprise me. Which was funny because I feel like 2 weeks ago it was 4 or 6, so someone is still ponying it up. But yeah.
What do you guys think about Quinn Ewers?
If it were me, I'd take the money and go back and get another year in college. He's been nothing but inconsistent his whole time in college. I mean, the potential's there. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees from time to time these nice little beautiful layered throws, but it's just never panned out. And he's with one of the best signal callers in college football, one of the top 4 or 5 guys, and they're loaded with talent. It's not like he's bereft of talent to work with, and yet still the inconsistency is there. And besides, and this is – everybody says this now, but it's 100% true. He'll make more money with that $8 or $9 million than he will in the first 2 or 3 seasons of NFL football. If he gets drafted in, say, the second round or 3rd round, So I mean, the money's not even close. If he can grab $8 million, $9 million for 1 year of college football, I'd be heading back myself.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have him 3rd or 4th round pick. And the other thing that comes out of this, the one thing I do give him credit for on, maybe not coming back and taking that NIL money, Ewers has run from competition. He went to Ohio State a year early, graduated high school a year early, thinking he could get a jump on it and make some money. He got to Ohio State, found out that he was not in the competition, and went to Texas and got to Texas and like, okay, I'm here. I'm ready. I'm the Texas kid. And then, Arch Manning's here. And people have been clamoring for, the backup is always your favorite guy until he gets in and doesn't perform. And,
I ain't
Ewers
going.
went from a packed quarterback room in Ohio State thinking like, hey, I'll go to Texas and I'll have somebody. And Manning walked in the door and, he's in a terrible spot there because you're competing against Arch Manning and they're always going to measure you against them. And Manning has not just through genetics, but I mean, he is exactly what NFL GMs look for size. He's more athletic than Ewers. He's got a whole bunch of other things that stick for him. I think it puts him in a bad spot. Like I said, this is a terrible year, I think, for quarterbacks. It's going to go down as a very, very bad year. I think guys that normally wouldn't have gotten shots are going to get some opportunities to land in that, 3rd and 4th round that, in other years, those guys would be, maybe a priority free agent, but maybe not. So if I'm Ewers, like Ben said, if you're going to be a 3rd round guy, you're not going to make that money. If you're offering me $9 million to play college football again, I'm going to take that run and I'll play again. And in the SEC, you're all again. Every other quarterback is an NIL quarterback. They've all made a move. So, it's one and done for a lot of guys around there.
Yeah, and I don't think the $9 million from Texas though. I think that is to transfer, or because I know the $6 million when I heard it before was definitely to get out of there. But like to Ben's point, man, Sark got Mac Jones to 3rd in the Heisman and won a national championship. But even from like I've used this quote several times. I'm just gonna go ahead and repeat it. Just listening to a Texas podcast, they said, man, he's not the guy. He's just a guy. Is he a good quarterback? Yeah, but is he going to elevate your team, at that time? No, I mean, if you put superior stuff around him, he can win you some games, but he's not like the guy, you know what I mean, to go out there and win you a championship, especially if the talent's not going to be there, especially, if he gets drafted wherever. So, I mean, he's just, I would kind of agree, maybe take that transfer deal, head to another school, and I'm more interested in who's paying him $9 million, thinking that this is the guy to win you a championship. So I don't get
Notre
that
Dame's name got floated around, but I don't know if that's the one or not. But Notre Dame's name is floating around a little bit. But I want to ask all you guys this: what do you?
Shay said no.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody over here would say no, but what's the reality? I don't know what it is. But let me ask all you guys this: what do you think Quinn Ewers' view is of his work while being with Texas to decide to go into the draft as opposed to staying there and developing some more? How do you think he views his value, his capabilities, what he's done? Because you all said it, and I would agree with all three of you, that he didn't look great. You know what I'm saying? In Texas, and there were some opportunities there that were definitely missed. I don't know if it's a talent thing or he just didn't have the head for it. I don't really know. But he decided to go into the draft and get quote unquote big money and maybe a shot in a weak quarterback draft rather than stay and develop in a system that he's familiar with and perhaps correct some things and kind of get some things right. What does that tell you about how he views himself? If that makes sense.
I don't think going back to Texas is an option though. I think they're ready to move on to Manning too as well. So I don't think I think if he moved on, it would be something else. But I mean, if you're Ewers and you're trying to boast yourself, you're like, look, I won a Big 12 championship the last year I was there, and I won been to the playoffs the last 2 years I was quarterback. So if you're trying to go on the wins versus like the actual body of work, that's probably what he's selling himself on.
Okay. Shane and Ben, what do you got?
I think his biggest thing, and it kind of plays off what Herb said, is he's going to be one of those ones where they want that full-on interview at the combine, because there's a lot of questions about him more from outside of the box than it is what he put up on film. I think the weaknesses he has, I think he has a good concept of what he can't do well. He still pulls the trigger on it, but he's also an injury guy. You know, he's had a rough go of it, missing games every single year he's been a starter, and that goes back to when he was in high school. So I think that really puts him in a tough spot. The thing for him is he's going to have to hit on, just like Herb said, the fact is that I'm a winner. Like, did we play our best all the time? Were there connections I could have made? Yes. But I've gotten my team in position to win every single year I've been the quarterback. And that's what he's going to have to stick on, because he's not going to be a number one for anybody out of the draft. So if you're going to be the backup guy, you have to be prepared that when I get my opportunity, I'm going to do what I need to do and I'm going to get victories.
Right.
But if his ego hasn't taken the hit just from being in the same quarterback room as Manning, I don't know what else is going to drop you down. You know, I still think he thinks very highly of himself. I think that's going to show in interviews, and it's going to depend on who you're looking for. I mean, if you're a Jerry Jones type guy, just the fact that he believes in himself is going to be okay for him. But if you're a quarterback, if you're Sean Payton, you're going to eliminate him off your draft list before you even interview him.
Fair. Ben, you got anything on this?
I think they're hitting on it. It's the blessing / curse of great athletes. You've always been the best. You believe in yourself, which is important, right? Because you're going up against some real good competition. But to a certain point, you've got to back off and say, hey, I'm not performing. Why is that? And what do I need to do about it? I think they're hitting on it.
All righty. My last question, then we can go ahead and get into the natty talk. All right. So thoughts on the college football playoff as far as the size? I think the last time not when it was, but we were talking about, a team of 4. Now we're talking about a team of 12. OSU's lost to Michigan, and Notre Dame's week 2 lost to Northern Illinois, I think it was. Is what people are talking about as a reason why that 12-team playoff was better, because it allows good teams to still be at the end of the road, where I guess theoretically they should be. What are your thoughts? And I mean, it could be a simple thumbs up, thumbs down. You like the fact that it's 12 teams now, or do you think it should have been, 4 where it was? Real quick, throw those answers out real quick, and we keep on.
I would have said 6 to 8 would have been where I would have capped it. Yeah, is where I wouldn't have gone past that.
Why?
I mean, 4 was, and then of course the Pac-12 folded, so that says. But 4 was just ridiculous because you had 5 Power 5 conferences, so you were always waiting for a mistake. So I would have been at like 6 at that point, 8 maybe just for the numbers. But even look at who your national champ has a chance to be a 50-50 shot here is the number 8 seed Ohio State. So you're kind of at least giving teams a chance to go through. Now with 8, you're gonna have a lot of controversy over those 10-2 teams, and I get that, but that's the spot where I would have got it to where the regular season still matters, but you can't just kind of throw it away. So 2 wins is the last part. I mean, we were debating 3 lost teams with the 12, and if we go to 14, that's when it happened. I just think you continue to devalue the regular season. So 6 to 8 is where I would have stopped. 6 is where I would have had it when you had all the 5 power conferences and then 1 wild card. 6 is where I would have started at. So
okay.
Shane, go ahead, man.
I was gonna say I like Commissioner Herb's call on that. The way that I thought about it, I'm okay with 12. The thing I would like to see is after that first round games, I think you should reorder the way that you pick it, because if you take like a Penn State team, they had a pretty soft go based on the rankings, getting to play home field, and then you get another lower game. Those are the questions I think that pop up with the 12. But I mean, from my perspective, I've always thought every other division, including 1AA, which is now FCS, has always had a much bigger tournament and has never had that much of an issue. It's a money grab when you're at the FBS level, and that's why they've played it this way. But I liked her. I agree with Herb. When you had the 5 power conferences and then a wild card, I thought 6 was a good run. I don't have a problem with the 12-team mix. I think as Herb said, the farther back you go, the more games you lose the probability that playing anywhere in the regular season means anything to you by that elimination.
I get that last part particularly. Go ahead, Vic.
Yeah, I agree. I don't need 12 teams. I just don't. I don't need that extra round. 8 is fine for me. If we dropped to 6, I'd still be fine. And the regular season matters a lot to me. We've seen every other sport, man. I mean, you name it, from NASCAR to basketball to baseball, the regular college basketball. The regular season, nobody really cares about unless you're just a hardcore fan of that sport. But, nationwide, nobody cares. Football's kind of the last ground standing here where anybody really cares about the regular season. And the more layers you add, at 16 teams, it starts to matter a whole lot less.
Yeah. I mean, like what Ben said right there, the disintegration of the regular season. Look at the NBA. They started an in-season tournament because people didn't care about what was going on.
I don't know what that means still.
And that shows you how far that regular season isn't important in the NBA.
Yeah.
You started this tournament as a way to try to get it so that the top athletes played every single night as opposed to resting everybody until you had to make a playoff. So now you try to barter with them to make it a part. And I would worry about that. Like if you went much wider in college football, everyone would say as long as we make it to like 9 wins, okay, we're good. We're going to have 20 teams at 9-3 and see where we can go from that.
So is this an opportunity for them to try to solve the issues they had before with the right team not getting in, or just about money?
Money.
It's always about money.
Okay.
It's always about money.
But
you kind of looked at the first round and saw that they had the right teams in. The first round was terrible, in the college football playoffs, and all the higher seeds were eliminated. So had they started at 8 and gone, like this doesn't even change anything. You just eliminated a round,
Why do I feel like they're going to go to 16 when Ben said
16?
They definitely are. They're not watching this show. They're like, I also don't think that they're watching many football games either, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I saw an article somewhere. I don't know where I saw it. I wish I would have grabbed it, but I saw it somewhere where they were talking about expanding even further than 12. I'm like, are you kidding me? Where are you going? To 25? What are we doing? Sweet 16? What are we doing? So I don't know what's happening, but all right, let's get into a little bit of Notre Dame, Ohio State. I guess on paper, this should be pretty close. I guess the NGM got them at 8.5, Ohio State, which is like, I don't know what that number is, what you expect. It's the largest point spread in history, from what I'm understanding. Overall thoughts. How you guys feel about that number before we start getting into all of the X's and O's and stuff? The 8.5. You think it's a reasonable number based on what Notre Dame has done, or just is like this is because of the way Ohio State's played in the last game or so? Is that a high number? Or is it just
I feel like it's about right, especially when I look at the talent levels here. I mean, Notre Dame's more talented than they were 10 years ago, or the last time they made it to a game this big. But still, man, you look at Ohio State, for every NFL draft caliber guy that Notre Dame has, Ohio State's got about 3. I mean, it's really just not even close when you look at the talent levels. Now, when you talk about coaching and scheme, that's where the gap really starts to narrow a lot here. But, just as on talent levels, the explosives, right, man, Ohio State has people at every position that can go 60, and Notre Dame doesn't have as many. So that's really, I think, to me, was where that number is coming from.
So we're just the best, theoretically, in the national championship, you're one of the best 2 teams of all, right? That's ideally what you want. You don't want anybody getting blown out in the national championship, theoretically. Are these the best 2 teams? In your opinion? I'm sure everybody will say Ohio State, most definitely. They've been saying that since the season started. But do you feel like Notre Dame is the second best, or is that team not playing right now?
I'll stay with it, then I'll shut up and let the other 2 guys roll on both of those topics here. Yeah. I like Notre Dame being in. I've heard a couple people criticize it, and I don't personally agree with it. Okay. Maybe they did have a little gentler path here through some of this, but still, you look at the other teams; they're all flawed. Oregon, Georgia, Texas, the other heavy hitters, they all had major flaws that they were not able to overcome. And to me, that's the end of the story. Notre Dame's here. I think they fully deserve it. They've earned it. I think they're a legit team compared to just about anybody else right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they had to take out Georgia, and that's your SEC champ to get here. So
Okay.
I'm good with that. Yeah, and it's not when you started this tournament. Like if you honestly looked at how many teams you thought could win the whole thing, you probably were only at 4 or 5. So their path was probably just as good as anyone else's. Ohio State did have to go through 2 others, and it's not their fault that Penn State had the easiest path, and that's who they had to defeat to get to the national championship.
Yep.
I just always thought they were pretenders, but if you had asked me if were they one of the 2 best before this started, I would have said no. But I was also looking at the paths. I thought out of that whole bottom region, it was going to be them or Georgia that came out. So they were on my radar as far as this goes. I'm not entirely shocked. When that game actually came, I picked Notre Dame over Georgia. So I was totally fine with it. I think they've earned their way in. And to your other question with the point spread, I think the point spread is fair given what you see on paper. This is the margin for error for Notre Dame is just smaller. They can't afford to slip up here or there. They've got to. I think they have the coaching advantage, kind of like Ben said there, and I think that's what they're going to have to work to perfection in this game.
All right, Shane, you got anything on those 2 points?
Yeah, I mean, Herb and I talked about this on Tuesday night, but I think he hit on it. Notre Dame's, margin of error is super small. I'm a Notre Dame fan. If you're looking for them to come away with a victory, it needs to be a low-scoring game. It needs to be a defensive game, and that's the way they pull it across. Like both Herb and Ben mentioned, the one thing that sticks out for Notre Dame, you can talk a lot about, do they deserve to be here, and that the top 2 defensive teams in most statistical categories are playing in this championship game right now. The hit for Ohio State that's been great for them is the last 2 games for them, their offense has exploded where they didn't always perform at that level during the regular season. I think like Ben mentioned, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're hoping that Chip Kelly and Ryan Day pat themselves on the back and think they have everything figured out, and Will Howard has an abysmal game and Notre Dame can hold on. I think, like you said, that for this to be the highest point spread, we've seen other national championship games where the matchup was way worse than this, and it probably should have been a much higher spread, but it wasn't. I think, like everyone else has mentioned, I think this is pretty close. If you're going to say that Ohio State offensively is at least a touchdown better than Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame would agree. That is, with the offensive talent they have, I think Notre Dame knows that this needs to be a 1-score game or they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Nope.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And by the way, both of these teams, I think their last 3 games, they beat 3 teams in the top 10. So it's not a huge disparity, but I get the point because Texas and Oregon is a lot better than, theoretically better than Georgia and Penn State, I guess, would be have been considered. All right, so let's get into some of the X's and O's and stuff. So this game is going to be pretty close. I'll ask you about the predictions at the end. I don't have a number. I try to think of one, but I don't have one. I can just tell you who I think's going to win. I don't have one. But Notre Dame is known for playing man. They probably play man one of the highest rates in the entire country. Doing that against Ohio State would be problematic with guys like Jeremiah Smith out there. I mean, I don't know if you want to do that, but they'll have to change their strategy. How does Notre Dame recreate their dangerous ground game? Because against Ohio State, that's what they have to do. So how do they solve that problem, you're thinking?
I think a lot of it plays to how healthy Jeremiah Love is. Yeah. If he is closer to full strength, I think that changes the dynamic for that offense. It takes a lot more pressure off Riley Leonard to have to make some of those plays. The big problem for Notre Dame are either Knapp, the freshman tackle, or Spindler, the guard, going to be able to play this game. They've had to shuffle offensive linemen out. Ohio State has offensive linemen that are hurt as well. But like Ben mentioned, there's more 5-stars at Ohio State for you to plug and play. Yeah. Notre Dame has had an amazing offensive line the last couple of years, but it really comes down to them. As much as, Ryan Day didn't like hearing it, and I've posted on X quite a bit about it. Lou Holtz talking about who's going to be the tougher team a year ago is what this game's going to come down to. It's going to be a slugfest if Notre Dame can pull it out. because, as you mentioned, if you have to cover Smith and the rest of the offensive weapons on Ohio State, you hope that Chip Kelly decides he wants to make it a run game too, and we just run the clock out.
Yep.
Yeah, Knapp is out, so I guess Tosh Baker's going to be in behind him. He's probably been there for about maybe 4 or 5 years. He was I think last year Notre Dame had their most prolific offense in Notre Dame history. He was a big part of that. So I don't know how it's going to play out against Ohio State, but they got him back there because Knapp is out, so he won't be playing. But go ahead. Who's next?
Go ahead, Herb.
No, shoot, I forgot where you were. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think the only way, not the only way, but the way that Notre Dame gets to this is that run game. I think this is one of those we're using the play clock up every time. There's no rushing to the line. We're going to run a run play. If it stretches out, they want this game to go longer and longer. And to the psychological part, I think I would even come out and have some hot takes where I'm like, hey, there's just no way Ohio State can run on us. Just to kind of get them into that. I mean, let's be honest, that Michigan game where they were just banging their head against the wall trying to do that. You don't want this to get into wide open. You don't want them hitting all their wide receivers. We focus on Smith, but the whole crew over there is dangerous. So I just, like you said, this needs to be like a rock fight. You do to drag them down into the mud, slow this game down. That's where Notre Dame wins this game. And Notre Dame knows that, so I'd be shocked if there's some kind of hurry up offense going at any point for Notre Dame.
Yeah, speaking of hot takes, that's why he got his name. I don't think Notre Dame rolls over Ohio by at least 12 points. Ohio really come in and think they're going to win by a mile. It's called hot take for a reason. He got plenty of those. Yeah, man. There's a lot going on. Ohio State, I guess if you compare defenses, Ohio State probably has the better one. They don't blitz much because they got one of the best lines in the country. I think they're third best in the country, so they don't blitz that much. But Notre Dame got pass protection issue. That's what we've seen that in the last several games. So how they gonna protect Riley Leonard, I think, is the next thing. Like we talked about before, Knapp is out, so you got Tosh Baker in there trying to shore that up and and keep Riley Leonard upright. So just if there's a weakness on the Ohio State side, I know I read some things about their outside game and stuff, but if there's a weakness out there for Ohio State that Notre Dame can capitalize on, what do you think that is?
Sadly, it's coaching.
Yes, that's it. Like Herb said, I would bait that line to Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. I would talk about how we're gonna outstrength them. We're gonna beat them up down low. We're gonna do all this just in the hopes that they try to play that game style. I think you just mentioned it though, Yusuf. The thing for me, if I'm Notre Dame, and I know it sounds counterproductive, but with the pass rush that they get from that defensive line, Notre Dame has a chance if Sawyer and JTT try to get after Leonard as hard as possible, where he can make some runs in the space that falls behind them. I think that's something Notre Dame's going to look for. Sawyer at times against Texas was 100% going for the sack regardless of what happened. It worked out well for him. It got him the game-winning touchdown. But there's going to be some running lanes against this defensive line. Can Leonard be the one that pulls the trigger, get some things going? If I'm Notre Dame, I'm looking to try to get the ball as far around and as many weapons as possible. They don't have the same amount of weapons, so I think they have to make the short passing game and Jeremiah Love need to be where they're looking.
Yep.
All right. It sounds like people think that the cornerbacks are the liability on this defense. So I guess the question is, can Leonard capitalize on it? You talk about the
penalty wise, it's not even close. Like Notre Dame had a lot of pass interference calls in that Penn State game, but Ohio State on the outside is suspect defensively.
Without question.
And I forget the bit. What is I know brain fart, but the highly touted guy they had out there has just been terrible, and they didn't even get pulled. I think in the Texas game.
The corner.
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Yeah. Denzel Burke.
There you go, Burke. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Burke. Yeah. Yes. So his draft stock. Yeah. Well, no, Burke. His draft stock has just slid down. And I think at times he got pulled against Texas. So
he's coming out too.
Definitely.
He's coming out too.
No, I'm saying his like at the beginning of this year, he was highly,
Oh.
highly touted, and this
Okay.
year has not been kind to him as far as his draft stock. So no.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So let's just go ahead and get down to it, man. Who's winning this game? You can drop a score if you want to, but I can't do it. I have no idea. I want to say 7-6, but I want nobody to laugh at me. So who's winning? Notre Dame or OSU?
I'll lay it first. Shane, you go ahead, man.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say I've made the statement already on Herb and Rod's show, but I went 21-17, picking Notre Dame as a Notre Dame fan. I think it has to be low scoring like that.
Yeah.
I think that's where you have to pull through. I think Notre Dame is going to bet heavy on their special teams and hope that they can pull a play out of there that maybe gets you a back end touchdown that makes it so that the offense doesn't have to pull as hard.
All right. Ben or Herb? Who got it? Who's next?
I'll go ahead and run it. Let Herb have the final word out of us three. I want to see Notre Dame win, man. I just really do. I haven't seen that since I was a kid. All right, and I saw it a long time ago. I would love to see Notre Dame win this, but I'm just having a hard time picking them. I'm having a hard time seeing Notre Dame push across the 20-point line, and I'm having a hard time seeing Ohio State drop below the 20-point line. So I've got something like
fair.
Ohio State 27 and Notre Dame 18-19. You know, it's just kind of where I'm at, even though I really want to see Notre Dame pull this thing out.
Copy that. Herb, what you got, man?
I think that's a very fair pick. I'm going to go with the same pick I made on our show on Tuesday. Back it up, my boy Shane. I went 20-17. So I took a point off of Shane's total with Notre Dame somehow making this one. So winning this one.
All right. I'm going with what I want. Beyond what the idea of OSU winning the national championship is enough to I don't want that. So I want Notre Dame to win too. I was thinking about a low scoring game. I was thinking something like that, like 24-20, but I don't know, man. But
to Ben's point, it's just hard for me to actually honestly think of Ohio State not getting over 20. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a struggle the other way. So I agree.
That's why I said 24-20, but I just got something.
On our show, there was 4 people. 2 people had already picked Ohio State. Shane had picked Notre Dame. I'm like, Shane, I got your back. Don't worry. So I'm sticking with that pick. That's my official pick.
And I mean, the fans were certainly not on my. We had probably the best dressed fan, but there were not a ton of fans that were on my side on this one.
Yeah.
I think though, like you said, Yusuf. So the game that you're probably happiest to how Ohio State did. I think if you're Notre Dame, you're hoping this becomes a Michigan game.
Yeah.
Where you control the run, Ohio State misses, Howard has a bad game. You know, those are the one thing about this is that Ohio State has shown that yes, they can, run Oregon out of the gym, but they've also shown that they can score 6 points and lose in a run game. So if you're a Notre Dame fan, you hope that, okay, the offensive magic has come to a halt. Yeah. Like I said, on Herb and Rod's podcast, I'm a realist, though. I know that, you need touchdown Jesus, you need Joseph, Mary, a couple other saints to be full on to help Notre Dame come through.
Yes. You're not turning down any help when it comes to this game. Whatever,
No
whatever
help.
it takes.
No help. We'll take any saint we can get in the Catholic Church to help out in this case.
Yeah. Hey, look, all you need, take it from a Kansas City Chiefs guy. You just need to pay the refs, have a few voodoo dolls sitting down there, and you're all set, okay?
Which, by the way, not opposed to that either. Not opposed to that either. I say whatever it takes.
I'm opposed to the voodoo doll, but that can come back at you. But one more question. This is going to be a quick question. No analysis, please. So I want to get an NFL before we close out. Which is better for college football overall? A Notre Dame win, being an independent, or Ohio State winning Natty? No analysis, man. Just quick. Which one is better?
Notre Dame.
What's better? I didn't hear Shane say Shane is nod. I know. I feel your heart, man, but I need you to say it.
It's Notre Dame. Like you said, it's Notre Dame. It gives another plus. Also, Marcus Freeman to give you your first African American head coach. It plus as the media they should be the darling.
I'm rooting for them, that's for sure. All right. Look at this. Yeah, get them hot. They both equally as bad. It's like, you know what?
Let's go.
Yeah, they both bad. All right.
Yeah.
So,
but see, present you doesn't worry about what future you has to pay. So present you just wants the championship. Future you can handle the consequences. Yep. That's what college sports was built on.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Man, I want to get into the news and notes a little bit, but we need to get into these games now. But wow, some good stuff here. Debo Samuel. Good stuff. All right. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get to the game. So Texans and Chiefs are the first game on Saturday. Ben, you can start off since these are the Chiefs. It's going to be completely biased anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So just for context, Texans been around since I think 2002. Their franchise started. They went in division round 5 times. They're 0-5. They had a 24-point lead in 2019, and they blew that, choked it up. Only team in the NFL never going to a conference title game. Never won a road playoff game either. So head-to-head matchup, they almost beat KC, but then Tank Dell went out with a knee, and that was a wrap. So we got all those things going on. Hey, they're 4th in sacks, 49 in the year, so they're doing something. But they're playing the juggernaut, so to speak. And it's true that they got refs in their pocket. It's going to be an even longer championship game. So what do you guys got on the Texans and Chiefs just overall before you give your predictions?
I think said Ben was leading.
Yeah, Ben, this is
Okay,
you.
sorry. I'll
I'll
jump in. Yeah, look, Houston has a chance to win this game because Kansas City just doesn't blow teams out for the most part this year. Kansas City's offense still isn't great. And you can get to that Kansas City secondary if you can figure out all this nonsense up front that Steve Spagnuolo likes to throw at you, okay? And Chris Jones, all right? You can get to that secondary, but that's not easy. There's no way I'm going to pick Houston to roll into Kansas City and get a win here. I do think it's an ugly game on both sides. I think both offenses struggle to score points. But I've got Kansas City winning, I don't know, something like 25-18. It's kind of an ugly field goal type of game. Kansas City just doesn't beat themselves. That's one of the big things that allows them to win so many freaking games. You know, they don't make a lot of stupid pre-snap penalties, post-snap penalties, turnovers, etc. They just kind of slice and dice and figure out what to win.
Jamal Taylor?
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's a problem.
All he does is do stuff like that. What do you mean?
What will keep the score close is Houston's defense will create problems for Kansas City. That will keep the score close, but that's it.
Yeah. And I think he hit on it in the middle there. Like, that's what Kansas City wants. Let's keep this game close and let Mahomes do something at the end. So they're not going to worry about the game script for like the first 3 quarters. Like, that's fine. We've got the and to be honest, especially the way this year's gone or the career's gone, 3-point game in the 4th quarter, who are you going to trust, CJ Stroud or Pat Mahomes? And that's no shot at Stroud. This year hasn't been his year, hasn't played well on the road, and this is only his 2nd year, you know? So in the future, 5 years from now, could we absolutely be like, yeah, CJ Stroud's going to win this game? But right now, I just don't see how you don't take Mahomes. And this would be home or away. I'd like Texans a little bit more if they were playing at home, but not enough to win this game. I mean, Kansas City doesn't mind playing it ugly, and they're going to pull something off in the 4th quarter, and I feel like, pull away with this one.
Okay, Shane, got something?
Yeah, I think really what you said, Yusuf, is the big thing. Never won a road playoff game, never made it past this round. All those things stack up. Kansas City knows the way to get to this next round. I think, like Ben said, defensively, can they make some problems for Kansas City? Yes, but I don't think that worries Kansas City as much as it did in maybe years past. I think Mahomes pulls a play out and they get a victory. I think this is also one of those games that if the Texans start behind, this game could get ugly. This could be the one blowout, I think, out of this series.
Yeah, I think we all got KC. That's what it sounds like. I got a 28-25 KC. Yeah. I can't trust the Texans. I'm sorry. Can't do it. All right, Commanders and Lions. This one is just a little bit tougher for me. I know what I'm supposed to say, what the unspoken rules dictate I say about this game, but I just can't do it. It's amazing to me that Ben Johnson is the motivating factor in this game. I'm like, how he don't even play? How's it? because of his interview last year and what he said about the Commanders and their hierarchy. These guys got the thing on the bulletin board. You believe that. His face is on the bulletin board saying, this dude said, we a basketball team and we can't play football. They're going to go out here and they're going to do something. I already know what's going to happen. It's going to be a pretty high-scoring game, though, for sure on that one. I think both teams ranked top 5 in points this season. So no defense was even involved. This was the NDA they signed. No defense allowed. This is a high-scoring game right here. You can believe it. I think Detroit got to run the ball to avoid the kind of disaster we've seen happen with the Lions so many times. They're 6th best in the NFL at doing that, so they should do that. They still got some injuries they're still trying to come back from. They haven't got everybody back yet. Honestly, the biggest gaping hole is that the Commanders are 30th against the run, which is like, ooh, not good. But Dan Quinn's a joker, man. So I don't know what it is, but ever since that 28-3 debacle, remember Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Falcons? Yeah, Dan Quinn coached that. And it's just like ever since then, he's been coaching like he got his hair's on fire. I mean, he's just been going for it on 4th down. He's been doing crazy stuff. Like never relenting, never giving up. With that being said, all those things all together, I'm saying the Commanders are going to win this game. I really believe it. The Commanders are going to pull a win out. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Commanders, Lions.
I'm rooting for Detroit, so I'm just not going to pick against them. If Montgomery can actually get back into this game, like they say he's on track to, I think that's huge for Detroit. And I also don't think Detroit minds a shootout, as much as Washington does. So I still like Detroit in this game.
Fair enough. Ben, Shane, who's going next?
I mean, this whole year I've been on the Commanders bandwagon. I think they probably jumped ahead of the game plan a little higher than what they expected this year. I think Jaden Daniels has played above any other quarterback, of this draft class where maybe he wasn't ranked as high. I think he's done a great job. I think the point that you bring up with Dan Quinn is important because that's also a Shanahan offense where you start to slow down, and he really, the offense is what lost that game for Atlanta versus the Patriots. Kingsbury would have kept the pressure on. But I think it's too much stacked in their favor for Detroit. The one thing that I think is the biggest thing for Detroit is just an entire defense is injured. If any of those other players were still out there for Detroit, I think this really pushes it that way. But Washington's shown that they can compete and they're going to score points. I think like Herb and Ben have hit on before, I don't think they're afraid of this game becoming a shootout, but I picked Detroit in this one as well.
Yeah.
Good. Ben, what you got?
I've got Detroit winning. Now, I love the Commanders, but I'm rooting for Detroit like Herb. It's kind of, for me, emotionally,
right.
The Lions turn, and we'll see the Commanders in a season or two from an emotional standpoint. I've watched Detroit be so bad for so long. I just want to see them push on through.
Yes.
Listen, if this is a close game in 4th quarter, it's anybody's ball game, all right? Because I trust Jaden Daniels at this point in the 4th quarter just as much as I trust Jared Goff in the 4th quarter in a close one. I mean, it's a coin flip. But I honestly just feel like Washington's going to get outgunned here. I mean, you look at the rosters from talent standpoints, it's not even close. I mean, it's just not even close. And I really feel like Detroit's offense is going to crank it up. Herb already mentioned Montgomery should be coming back healthy. They're starting to get their linebackers back as well, Anzalone and Campbell. They've got Hutchinson waiting in the wings. If they can get it all the way to the Super Bowl, maybe pick up 20 snaps there. So the guys are starting to trickle back in. It just looks like Detroit's going to be able to score too many points in this game, ultimately. So I feel like this could end up even being a runaway. But if it's a close one, 4th quarter, anybody's ballgame.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I got a vested interest in this. I want to see Washington win for a couple of reasons, but the main reason I want them to show the Giants how to do a quick rebuild. Because they don't know how to do that. So I want them to learn from this. This is a great example right here in your division. Yeah, do what they did.
Yeah. And can I say this also? One thing about being ahead of schedule,
new GM, new quarterback, yeah.
Well, and one thing about being ahead of schedule for Washington, there kind of goes the fear because you're playing with house money. You're like, we're not supposed to win these games. We keep winning. What the heck? So, and I think that goes to your point too with the coaching staff and how aggressive they are at times.
Yep, and most of their guys are on 1-year deals. So
Yeah.
I think Bobby
Let's do
Wagner came for a 1-year deal. So go ahead and just go for it. Get after it. I got him winning 41-40. So not a whole lot of confidence, but just a little bit. All right. So Sunday, Rams and the Eagles. I've been on notice all over Twitter. When I was there, I'm picking Rams in this game. It's not an NFC East bias. It's just I think they're better in the key areas where it matters. And people are sleeping on Stafford. I'm like, this is one of the best quarterbacks in the playoffs. You can say what you want about him, but when he got his guys, the dude's a stud. He overperforms. Tackling Saquon was a challenge the last time they played. The Eagles went for 300.
Yeah.
I had 255 of them. So that's like he had more than 75% of the production in rush yards. But the Rams improved their defense since the last time they met. I think since week 12. They only surrendered 104 rushing yards since then and held, I think, 5 of their opponents to single-digit points. So the Rams defense is stepping up. I think it's going to be key against the Eagles. Emphasis is going to be on the Rams O-line protecting Stafford, man. It's going to be the biggest thing because if Kupp and Nakua get open, which they always seem to do when they have time, it's going to come down to the defenses because the offense is going to be really good. So I'm going with the Rams on this one. What do you guys got?
I have Philly in this one, and basically because exactly what you said. Saquon Barkley and that offensive line, Saquon was the one that had to say, no, it's okay, let's put somebody else in there. I have enough yards. I mean, if that continues,
by the way, that'll never be me.
That's
that
terrible for the Rams. I think
no, I would not have slipped. I would have scored that touchdown in the last game. I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you that right now. Oh, yeah. Especially with that lead.
Yeah. Somebody else. I mean, I've had so much and so many. Let me give some to.
No, I would have brought you up in the same interview of, hey, he's always had my back. He's been great. He's been supporting me through all my yards. Oh, love him. No, we're not doing that though.
Wow. All right. So who next, Ben?
Well, I think I cut Shane off though. That's my fault. I don't think he finished. That was my fault.
It was a point worth making. What I was gonna say though is, I think if you're the Rams, Fisk and Verse have to have an outstanding game to be able to turn that around. I agree with what Yusuf said with Stafford and Kupp and Nakua, but Philadelphia last year got beat because they didn't have enough defensive backs. They went in the draft and brought defensive backs out this year. Their pass defense is much better than it has been in years past, and I think that helps them. They'll control the ball, and Stafford's going to have to, pick and dunk against how this goes, and I don't think the Rams have enough defensively to keep up.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, I've been wrong. I've been wrong before. Not a lot, but I've been wrong before.
We've been talking about them guys off and on for the whole season, the DBs. I ain't seen that did not improve, but we've been talking about them. I know I have at least a few times on this show. Against Nakua and Kupp, it's not happening, man. They're gonna have problems.
I think Kupp gets hurt in this game. And I think Kupp gets hurt.
You fancy ripped him? He's injured now. You got him injured now.
Unfortunately, I've called injuries before that have helped me out. I think Kupp gets hurt.
How you put him on the fantasy injury list? The game didn't even start yet. I don't understand that. Okay. Ben, Herb, whichever one of you guys is next?
You can tell where your heart lies, huh? I'll take it, Philly. I just think that the defense is going to be too tough. I think this ends up being kind of an ugly game. Like with my Notre Dame score, I'm going to go like a 20-17 again. Philly offense is totally not in sync. So I see a lot of runs, a lot of punts. They still seem to start slow. But I think they'll slow down the Rams just enough to get the win.
All right, Ben.
I've got the Eagles here, and by the end of the game, I don't even have it all that close. I think it's close and ugly early, but I think the Eagles wear them down. Listen, it's in Philadelphia. It's going to be about 32 degrees starting game time. It's only going to get colder. There's a little bit of, sleet, snow mix just kind of hanging around. That's not good for the Rams. That's good for the Eagles. The Eagles already don't pass the ball a whole heck of a lot. They're gonna run at Barkley first. And as much as I love Fisk and Verse, and I love those guys, this Eagles offensive line will handle them much better than that Vikings offensive line did last week. Not only pass protection, but running the football.
And the Vikings have an offensive line? I missed that.
That's another good point. The Rams secondary, It's not very good in much of anything. It's not terrible. It's not great either. So I've got it is going to be close early and ugly early, but ultimately just too much Eagles here.
Nah, I'm on my own with this one. I ain't gonna change my mind. I'm staying with it. So y'all can text me nah if they win, whatever. I'm good with it. All right. So last one to be Ravens and the Bills. This is against the marquee matchup. This is supposed to be the one. That's why I know it ain't gonna be because we want it so bad. But this is the one showdown between MVP incumbents. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Lamar should have it locked in, by the way. It should be easy. Historic season. Lamar, the first to throw 40 or more touchdowns with 5 or less interceptions, which is incredible. To Allen's credit, first quarterback to have 25 pass touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions in the season. So they're both doing historic things. Epic season for both of them. I think this game is going to be decided by the defense because I think the offense is going to be a wash, honestly. Baltimore gave about 11.4 points per game. Hell Bills, the last time they had a head-to-head to 10 points. That was ugly in that game. But I think it's going to be a little bit different. This is for all the marbles right here for the most part. And Buffalo defense got some injured starters coming back, so that's going to be good. They're going to need all them guys to tackle Derrick Henry. He had 199 yards, almost broke 200 in their last head-to-head. This is a tough one because I'm like, I want the Bills to win it just because I feel like they've been so far from scratching the Super Bowl glory after all those years back under Marv Levy. I'm like, man, I love to see the Bills and the Lions in this, but I don't know if that's going to actually happen. That's what I kind of want to see happen. But I'm going Bills to win this one and pull it out. And Josh Allen comes into his own. He's still not going to win MVP, but I want them to win the game. Who's up?
I'm going Ravens in this one. I do hope this is much better than the first game, and I do want I'm not rooting against either team, and I like either team, kind of going up against Kansas City, I guess. But I just feel like the coaches are going to lean on Derrick Henry a little bit more than they do in some of the matchups here and there. I feel like they're going to lean on the run game. Don't mind punting a little bit, lean on the defense, which has improved the second half of the season. And if you're Lamar, if it's not going to be now, then when? You know what I mean? And my secondary question, whose legacy needs this win more, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? But I'm going to go with the Ravens to pull this one out.
Well, let's jump on that question first. Okay, so hot take. As Giants fans, the answer is no. We shoot for the Bills. They're in New York, so same thing. But as far as Herb's question, whose legacy needs it more? Let's ponder that while Shane and Ben drop their thoughts on the game. Give us some time to think about that. Answer that question for them. So Shane, Ben, who's up?
So I am with Herb on the Ravens on this one. He and I have talked throughout this year about it all depends on if the Ravens are going to Raven or not.
Yes.
I think they keep a solid run game. I think they let Lamar do what he can do. I think, like Herb said, and you've mentioned, the defense is the real spot where this comes through. I also think that this offensively is going to be a flat-out battle of tight ends. The Bills have great tight ends that Allen loves to use. I think Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews have huge games, especially Likely in this matchup. I think I'd love, when you're talking media-wise, I'd love to see the Bills win. Their fan base is ridiculous, and they're going to travel, and it would be great for them to get this opportunity. But if you look at how bad they played in the first half against Detroit, if they have a similar start against Baltimore, they're going to be down 3 scores, and it's going to be real tough for them to pull back.
Okay. Ben.
Yeah, listen, it's really not fair for these two teams to be playing in this round. This is a Super Bowl worthy matchup. I mean, both these teams are legit heavyweights in almost any way you want to look at them. But this is where it's at. All right, so here we go. I've got the Ravens by a narrow margin. I just like them a whole lot better when I look at everything. I like their defense, the way they're playing defense right now versus this Bills defense that I don't really totally trust. I like that. Derrick Henry is, to me, 3 times better than anything Buffalo is going to do with Cook over there, even considering screen games and stuff. And then Lamar and Josh Allen, in a way, will kind of neutralize each other, but not when you've got Henry doing Henry's thing. I mean, Lamar is just going to be able to tee off here, I think. So, close game in Buffalo. Joe Brady, I probably trust him more than I trust any other coach on the field, honestly, based on what I've seen this year. But man, Lamar is doing ridiculous things right now. Okay, when he moves over out of the pocket a little bit and got a defender coming at him, he just kind of skips out of the way while he's looking downfield. Then he moves over a few more feet with another defender coming at him. He's still looking downfield. Then he moves again. He's standing over here at the sideline with basically his own RPO sitting there. But his RPOs are, do I throw it 60 yards or 20 yards, or do I take off and run? I mean, It's just sick. It's like watching a video game. And, as good as Josh Allen is in his own right, when you've got Henry up the middle killing you and Lamar over here doing all this nonsense, I don't know what you do about that, especially if it's a Bills defense that I'm just not a huge fan of. So give me Baltimore here, but I do think it's close.
All right. Guess I'm alone again. It's all good, though. Getting kind of used to it now.
It's not a bad pick, though. Buffalo, to me, is still a really good pick. It's kind of, I'm leaning more. And I agree with this right here. If you're Lamar and you've won two and you might win a third, you can't afford to go out in this round. Like this, it's just going to get worse and worse for you. So I definitely think he needs to win this. Josh Allen lost a lot coming into this year. So he's, it's almost kind of playing with house money. It's not the last trip, but Lamar, you need to win this one. And they've given you enough toys to do it. So.
Yeah, I can't. I'll never forget his draft speech, if you will, when he was talking to Goodell about, how he guaranteed the Super Bowl in Baltimore. I'm like, wow, you didn't even touch the NFL football yet. But so this is like, I guess I struggle with the question because this game is not the one that takes you to the Super Bowl. You still got to go through potentially the Chiefs, who they haven't done well against, obviously. So I guess to answer the question, I guess he needs to have it more because if he doesn't get past this one, he'll never get to the Chiefs game, which he can potentially lose anyway. But so they got to win that. I just think about the Bills because the ways that they've flubbed their opportunities over the years. They had teams that were, I guess, supposed to be stacked and made for the playoff, made for the postseason, and they went to bed, to put it bluntly. So I kind of feel like Allen's feeling some pressure from that. I could be wrong; it could just be me, but I feel like he's feeling pressure from this. Honestly, I don't know who needs to have it more, so I think I better stay neutral. I won't say nothing crazy, but I'm not quite sure. I don't really know. Here's another comment coming through from Hot Take. Lamar's had better teams than Josh over the years, defense and offense, so the pressure is definitely higher on Lamar than Allen.
Buffalo's had some good teams.
I'm not sure about this hot take. Baltimore, the one thing that they never seem to be able to get right is the wide receiver position. And they've had guys that were supposed to be scouted well and having all these talents, but when it came to them playing in Baltimore, they never really realized their abilities. So Baltimore had studs until up to last year when he kind of gutted the roster, gutted Mitch Morse and Diggs, Gabe Jackson. Is his name right? Is it Gabe Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Davis.
Sorry.
Doesn't feel right. Sorry, Gabe Davis went to Jacksonville. But they had, I think Josh had better teams before this year. But we can go side by side, but I'm pretty sure on that one. But so I guess I'm the lone guy going for the Bills, but I'm gonna stick with it 34-31. I ain't go. Let's see what happens. But all right, so we ain't gonna predict nothing beside this. We'll wait until next week to start predicting our championship games and then the Super Bowl and stuff. But any of the final takes before we close this bad boy out? Awesome show, by the way, guys. You guys did fantastic. Thank you all for coming in and doing this. Any closing thoughts?
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only other thing to throw in about the Lamar versus Allen run is how can Lamar have a better year than he had this year? If this isn't the year, what more can he do? People for years talked about, he's a great runner, but he can't pass. And then he has a ridiculous passing year, lowers the number of interceptions, and still rush for yards that Josh Allen did. both of these guys had great years, but I don't know what more else Lamar could do to show you that he's the MVP other than win those games. And the thing is, he's lost games where it always hasn't been his fault. I think Monk and the offensive coordinator really decides a lot for him. He needs to have a great game calling to really help this. Start the run game early, let Lamar do what he does, and hope Baltimore gets downhill quick.
Yeah. And guess who's doing head coaching interviews right now? Todd Monken. Lord have mercy. Lamar should be at his door with steaks and say, "Hey man, you go over there. You got me, baby. Stay with me." Because I can't see nobody else doing for him. Because Monken's style is all about airing the offense out, and that's right down Lamar Jackson's alley. That's where he needs to be. Herb and I have discussed it on different shows and even here that we don't want him running that much.
Yeah.
When he runs, he get hit as a runner, and bad things happen. That he's injured late in the season and can't help his team progress deep into the playoffs. So Monk can fix that, and now he's going to do interviews elsewhere. So what's going to happen? So I'm concerned about that one. But go ahead, Shane.
Well, and to pull back from what we've talked about with the college football playoffs, if you're a Georgia fan, your offense has not looked good since Monken has made his move. He has been a problem solver where he's been. Ben talked about this on Tuesday about coaches that might be underwhelming, but Monken's put in the work. The thing for him is he's never really been a head coach. I think it's going to be hard for him to get that, and I think the longer you go in the playoffs as an assistant, it makes it hard to get your first run as a head coach.
Yeah,
going to the Raiders then? That's what you're saying? He's going to Las Vegas?
I mean, if I'm him, I'd love to have my tight end back again. And if you let me pick a quarterback, I think Monken would be great for them. I also think he's got a lot of defensive coordinator ideas of who he'd want to bring with him. So I would think in Vegas he's not a bad pick. I have another pick for who I think would fit in Vegas the best, but
I'm listening.
It's Ben Johnson. Vegas is going to throw money at Ben Johnson. It's 100%. Vegas wants to go back to what the Raiders used to be. Let's throw the ball. Let's be the offensive weapon. Let's have the fastest players on the field. Let's do that type of thing. I think that's exactly what the Raiders are looking for.
Them boards is all defense.
Not offensively. It's always offensively when the Raiders won. It's always been attack, and they had tough defenders, not always great number-wise defenders.
Okay, all right. Any other closing thoughts? Herb, did you get yours in?
No, I just something Ben said with the whole Lamar thing that's just hilarious to me. The fact that he's out there doing this and the defenders are expected to cover their guy for this whole long is hilarious to me. And then an underlook, a kind of a thing that we don't ever talk about. The linemen for the Ravens are all trained. Like, we don't know what Lamar's going to do, so let's stay. There is no illegal man downfield kind of thing. It is. I just feel like they're really well coached to go, look, what Lamar's going to do, I'm going to stay right here in my lane, and whatever he does to figure it out, he'll figure it out. And I think just now there's a lot more scrambling to throw than there is scrambling to run. And I think that's saving a lot of wear and tear. And then, like we said, having Derrick Henry as the biggest, target. Hey, if I pull it away from Lamar or for Derrick, 3 or 4 guys still got to go that direction just to make sure he doesn't have it. He's not running free. So I like this version of the Baltimore offense. So.
Well, if they beat the Bills, they're my AFC pick if that happens. And thanks, Win, for that wonderful compliment. It was a good show because of you. So thank you for joining us again. And you guys, fantastic show. Might be one of the most watched shows ever in T3 history because of Ben and his blazer.
That's basically because of Ben. Like, let's give credit where credit is due. We knew
the warning. It's all about the blazer. We knew that. Yeah. It's not. It's only a shot. We understood the power of the blazer. We got it. and the hair straight back to Pat Riley. We knew what it was about. Okay.
As Herb knows, this is why I'm working with Ben.
There you go. You're a smart man, Shane. You're a smart man. So
this is why I'm working with Ben.
Shane, once you master that Pat Riley slick back, then we can talk, man. But until you get there, you're not in the competition.
I got that cleared. I'm never going to get that Pat Riley slick back.
No.
This ways.
Yeah.
Ben's so well dressed. I opened up another window just so I could watch this show on another thing, just to give you another click. So Ben, kudos, buddy. Kudos.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
You guys have a great night. Thanks for listening to us rant and rave about the sport that we love so much, the football, baby. Have a great night. And we will talk. There's no Thursday night football. What are we going to watch tonight? I guess I'll be watching PBS Mysteries or something.
Whoa.
PBS is the bomb. Don't do that. It's the bomb, man. I love me a good mystery. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right, man. Love you guys, man. Have a great day. Great night. We out of here.